Howdy. And when it comes to the government of the UK, you have rejected additional cookies. You can change your cookie settings at any time. No, I don't take cookies, we take the whole cake. Press release. Sale of horticultural peat to be banned in move to protect England's precious peatlands. The sale of peat for use in the amateur gardening sector will be banned by 2024 to protect peatlands and the natural environment. All sales of peat to amateur gardeners in England will be banned by 2024, the government has announced today, Saturday, 27th August. Peatlands are the UK's largest carbon store, but only approximately 13% of our peatlands are in near natural state. This degradation has occurred due to drainage for agricultural use, overgrazing and burning, as well as extraction for use in growing media. Bagged retail growing media accounts for 70% of the peat sold in the UK and is frequently misused. For example, being used as a soil improver rather than a medium in which to propagate plants. When this extraction takes place, the carbon stored inside the bog is released as carbon dioxide, contributing to climate change. Quick Fresh up. Using energy from light, plants chemically combine carbon dioxide and water to create glucose and oxygen. This process is called photosynthesis, contributing to climate change. Peat extraction also degrades the state of the wider peatland landscape, damaging habitats for some of our rarest wildlife, such as the swallow-tailed butterfly, hen harriers, and short-eared owls, and negatively impacting peat's ability to prevent flooding and filter water. A significant proportion of the UK's water supply lands or flows through peatlands. The measures announced today will contribute to efforts to achieve our ambitious target of restoring 35,000 hectares of peatlands by 2025 and wider efforts to achieve net zero. The announcement follows an extensive public consultation, which received more than 5,000 responses, with over 95% in favor of government taking action than ban retail peat sales. To ban. Yeah. The government has also pledged to continue to work closely with the professional horticulture sector on speeding up their transition to peat-free alternatives ahead of a ban for the professional horticulture sector, recognizing that the professional horticulture sector faces additional technical barriers that will take longer to overcome. So, peat, also known as turf, is an accumulation of partially decayed vegetation or organic matter. It is unique to natural areas called peatlands, bogs, mires, moors, and muskox. The peatland ecosystems covers 3.7 miles square kilometers and is the most efficient carbon sink on the planet. Because peatland plants capture carbon dioxide, naturally released from peat, maintaining an equilibrium. In natural peatlands, the annual rate of biomass production is greater than the rate of decomposition. But it takes thousands of years for peatlands to develop the deposits of 1.5 to 2.3 meters, which is the average depth of the boreal peatlands, which store around 415,000 gigatons, no, 415 gigatons of carbon, about 46 times 2019 global CO2 emissions. Globally, peat stores up to 550 gigatons of carbon, 42% of all soil carbon, which exceeds the carbon stored in all other vegetation types, including the world's forests. Also, it covers just 3% of the land surface. So peat is very interesting. Peat is very important. Peat is very abundant in some regions on Earth. Let's go to the creation, formation. Peat forms when plant material does not fully decay in acidic and anaerobic conditions. It is composed mainly of wetland vegetations, principally bog plants including mosses, sedges, and shrubs. As it accumulates, the peat holds water. This slowly creates wetter conditions that allow the area of wetland to expand. Peatland features can include ponds, ridges, and raised bogs. The characteristics of some bog plants actively promote bog formation. Most modern peat bogs formed 12,000 years ago in high latitudes after the glaciers retreated at the end of the last ice age. Peat usually accumulates slowly at the rate of about a millimeter per year. Yeah, I was thinking about peat already back in the days when I wrote this paper. And I think maybe because I was writing this paper. There are also tales in Finnish culture which tell about dragons. So we maybe wouldn't have needed to go to Middle Europe or to the far north in order to find dragon which relates to Finnish history, culture and mythology. His name is Iku Turso. The character is part of the Karelian and Finnish national epic Kalevala. Here's an example of what is said about him in the Kalevala. From the ocean rose a giant, mighty torsos, tall and hardy, pressed compactly all the grasses that the maidens had been raking, when a fire within them kindles, and the flame shoot up to heaven, till the windows burn to ashes, only ashes now remaining of the grasses raked together. One should understand the nature of a dragon and the reason why they are known all over the world with slight differences in their behavior. A dragon is a weather event, electromagnetic discharge event, in other words, lightning, wind, etc. With this kept in mind, read the snippet of the story of Ikutor's again. From the ocean rose a giant, mighty Torsas, which is Ikuturso, tall and hardy. This could mean a tsunami of unbelievable proportions which took everything with it. It is necessary also to remember that the Baltic region is topographically seen quite flat. A tsunami would have caused widespread devastation. Then we go back to the text. Pressed compactly all the grasses that the maidens had been raking, when the fire within them kindles. I think this could have something to do with peat. Yeah, there's some writing mistake. A shock wave flattened the landscape, and all biological creatures got not just instantly pulverized, they also got electrically altered, and all the good stuff of it burned or crystallized. This could have happened instantaneously by the hit of the shock wave itself. Winds were carrying the dust over the lands, and it is finally accumulated in low pressure separation bubbles by dielectric separation, which just dropped from the sky. Later, rain washed it in the ponds. If there was any water flow, some of it got washed away. If there wasn't any drainage by a river and the bottom of the pond is sealed from groundwater flow, the material remained in place, and that's where it is until today. Peat is a polyelectrolytic material, so it had once contact with some strong electromagnetic force. Since 1/3 of the Finnish landscape is peatland, it is understandable that it might be mentioned also in mythology. Till the windows burn to ashes, only ashes now remaining of the grasses raked together. This could indicate immense heat coming from somewhere. If windows are melting, then we need a whole lot of heat. Lava from volcanoes is about 1,200 degrees hot, but it needs more than 1,600 degrees to melt quartz. Even if he would pour fresh lava on it, it wouldn't melt. What else could create such a heat? And I would say only the only possible source for heating is a lightning bolt, i.e., a dragon. In this case, he has even a name, Ikutorso. I've been making videos about Peat, and tried to somehow explain it by drawing, even though I'm not a drawer. But it's very interesting. They use it as a fertilizer material by growing plants because maybe they don't know, but it's releasing CO2, which is good for the plants. And now they're banning it like there's like the Britain, the government is taking land away from the farmers in order to restore it into peat lands. And it is also mystery for many how peat got formed in the first place. It's a geomorphological phenomena, not really understood. Some say it takes really long until it's created. Some say it was a rather quick process. But I somehow think it could be possible this kind of shockwave thing could be the reason for peat. And since it has its own electromagnetic properties, the misty peatlands, there's a reason why there is mist in the peatlands, because it's mostly an acidic environment. So it has its own charge. And I think peat will, if it's in the water, the crystals or the material itself will align to certain telluric currents within the ground from different kind of rock types. If you take Finland, here's like all kinds of metals in the rocks, so they will have this own electric field. And if there is water, peatlands, and this kind of things around it, in it, above it, they will create daisy chains. They will align themselves, and they will form certain patterns. So now let me see if I can find something. Without practice, let's go here. Maybe here we are lucky. Somewhere. If you see it, you know what I mean by these patterns I was just talking about. Here, for example. I think these patterns emerge through electromagnetic activity. This is probably not the best, or not the best ones. There are like really amazing pieces of, no, how to call it. Electrical alignment. Maybe here's something as well. Yeah. Squatter Man. Check it out. Squatter Man in the peatlands. And I think it just emerges. Like if the particles of some whatever material get aligned, so the mosses, which like them, align on them, then we get the pattern of the mosses. Because first, the source of the nutrition for the mosses has to be aligned, and because there's all kinds of material within peat, it's almost everything is petrified, vitrified, transmutated. And it's obviously in a way also charged because it carries the CO2. But anyway, which is the food for the plants. which is the food for us. But anyway, here we are. Let's look at the blue side. Thank you. Bye.